Freddie King, when Freddie King was opening for Grand Funk, it was a blessing. Deacon Jones was his keyboard player, and those guys, every night, those guys were playing poker after the gig. And Freddie would pay him, then he'd win back when he was paying them.
It's an honor, Mark Farner, to have you on Taking a Walk, sir. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Let's take a walk, brother.
Oh, right now. Yeah. So we got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about the new version of the iconic song, I'm Your Captain, your project also Closer to Home coming out. We'll talk the collectibles and the tour a bit. But I do want to ask if you could take us back to the creation, first time around, of that song that to this day is part of the soundtrack of our life, Closer to Home. I'm Your Captain. What do you remember about the creation of it?
Well, I'll be glad to go back there with you, Brother Buzz, because it was a spiritual inspiration. You know, I say my prayers. I pray during the day. It doesn't have to be, first thing when you get up or for last thing when before you go to sleep. It's a state of mind. It is a belief system. We pray believing. So I said my prayer down in Parshallville, Michigan, and I was at the farm. It was a beautiful day. I'd been out, on the tractor doing some stuff. It was a wonderful day. I felt good, and I was thanking God for everything, for my life, and blessing everybody. And after I blessed all the cousins and, relatives and sisters and brothers, I put a little PS on my prayer, and I said, God, would you please give me a song that would reach and touch the hearts of those you want to get to? And when I went to bed, I conked out. I mean, I was out until about 3:30 in the morning, and I woke up. I was half awake. I was not fully consciously awake, but I was awake enough to grab my steno pad that I leave alongside my bed, because I've lost so many inspirations thinking, oh, I'll just remember that in the morning. And I never have remembered one of them the following morning. So I have a pad, and they're not necessarily songs. It's just writings that I have, things that come to me, and I need to get them out of my head. So I grab my steno pad and I start writing, Buzz. And, songwriters will go back to the first verse, or we'll go to the top of the verse. We'll start reading down through it to get the next line. We want to get a nice flow. We want it to be, conductive, a thought process to be conductive. And I knew I better not do that. For some reason, I just had to stay focused on the next line. They were coming so fast, and I knew if I went back to the top that I was going to lose where I was at, that I was going to lose that plugged in connection I had that was somewhere between heaven and earth. It was divine. It was a divine appointment. And I believe we are all capable of having this kind of experience if we believe, if we trust in the Creator. And I definitely do. That prayer brought the song, I'm Your Captain. When I was done writing this, the last word on the steno pad, I was spent. I put that thing back on the nightstand and I rolled back under the sheet. I was gone, man. I was out. I got up in the morning and I made coffee, and I'm sitting there in the kitchen, and I grabbed my George Washburn guitar and start playing. I said, oh, that's a nice little ditty right there. And started, I hit a chord that it had a nice ring to it. It had these harmonics that I'd never heard in this inversion. And I looked at my hand and I was trying to figure out, wow, that's a great chord right there. And as I'm looking at my hand, it was just like the thought came to me, get those words, get those words. So I go and I get the words, I put them on the kitchen table, and I had a cassette recorder because that was, that was state of the art cassette recorder, man. I pushed the button, I hit the red button, and I started playing, and the song came out as I'm singing the words. The chord changes came, and it was just as natural as somebody had taught me that song. It just all flowed right out. And when I took it to rehearsal, we worked it out. It's a big hit, I mean, Don and Mel knew then. They said, Farner, man, this song's a hit. This song is really a hit. So God bless them. They were the first ones to tell me that. And the world has had it. The Vietnam veterans have had it in their hearts. Many of the Vietnam veterans told me that they played that song over and over and over on their way back. Guys just crying, telling me this. And, you have this happen and it gets on you, and you're just so grateful and so thankful to have been used in such a way uh, that it influenced people, that it had a spiritual effect on their lives. There's no video. Back then, there weren't videos. I think videos messed music up, Buzz, because I was talking to a jock at WNEW New York City, and he told me they did a thing where they had 100 people give their definition, their personal definition of the song by Simon and Garfunkel called Bridge Over Troubled Water. He said, Farner, we got 100 diversely different interpretations, and not any two were even close. And that is so inspiring to me, because when we're listening to the music or we're reading the book, that video is going. We have our own video. We're thinking in word pictures. The words come and the pictures come, and they appear to us in our imagination. And without that exercise of imagination, you can get stifled. You can get yourself in a ditch, in the bottom of a ditch someplace, and you fighting to get out and can't think of why you're even there. You're struggling in life and don't even know why. I think our imaginations need some exercise, brother.
Yeah, well put. Okay, so I have to ask you, that's an amazing story, and thank you for sharing the story there. I have chills from it in so many ways. Did that same scenario where you felt the divine inspiration that you described occur with some of the other great catalog hits from Grand Funk Railroad?
Nothing. Not like that.
That was different, huh?
That was it. That was the one.
Mm.
And
So,
I have. Now don't mean to interrupt you. I have said, Lord, hey, if you got anything else,
bring it
send
on down. Send it here. In the remaking of the song and
Yeah.
thinking about the world today, and thinking about your description as well of how many soldiers coming back from Vietnam, were really touched, and that song got them through that journey. When you were redoing the song, did you get different feelings, or were they the sort of the same feelings as when you first created it?
No, I definitely got different feelings, Buzz. It was reminiscent of the process of, you know, what we got to lay this out. The first thing we did was Mark Slaughter, who produced the album, called his buddy Josh Egan, who was a drummer, and Josh is a great drummer, and Josh made a tempo map of the original version, because back when we cut this song, there was no such thing as a click track, and now everything you hear is recorded to a click track. In case they got to put something in, they have to have a code for that something to associate to and follow so that it can be in time with the track. The drummer was the click track back in those days, and it was human feel. But I don't think any of those songs were lacking for human feel myself. And I think click tracks are, they're a stumbling block. Seriously, if you got a lock to something that's artificial, then there is a chance that whatever you're doing is going to have a little of that artificial, inspiration sticking out of it. And I want this song, back when we cut it, it was looking at Brewer, and of course, when he would get excited, he'd rush a little bit, and then the song would settle back down. The tempo map, if you could see it, dude, it's like this. Brewer was all over the place, but Josh followed that tempo map, and he laid down Ludwig drums, the same type of drums that Brewer used on the first recording, and laid it in the tempo map right where it was supposed to be. And the guy he was spot on, just locked right into it. I played bass on this version, and a lot of the bass lines, Mel asked me, what do you hear in there? And I went, well, I'm hearing like, and yeah, okay. And that that's my line. That came from me in the first place. Mel Shocker is great. He is a great bass player. He's got feel dripping off of him. But and I didn't play it like Mel played it. I played it, like I played it on a different type of bass. Mel had a P bass with a humbucker, and I played it on a Lakeland bass that was plecked. And so it was easier for this guitar player to play that bass on this track, but we were playing in a different signature. The time signature was the same. The key signature was not A440. The original version was cut in A440 because A440 is the American tuning standard since 1953. That's when it was established here in the United States. But it went from 432, counting backwards from 432 to 440. And I don't know why, because 440 is an agitation. That frequency is an agitation to natural things, such as water, a body of water. You play 440, you play A2 on a scale in 440 tuning at 125 decibels, and you'll put chop on that water. It'll be like an ocean that is experiencing a storm, frothing and everything. You play that same note in the tuning standard of A432, and it is a piece of glass because it's not agitated. It's blending in with the natural that is here. And you and I are made of how much water, brother? We're a lot of water. So the fourth.
Oh, I love this. Have you ever had a conversation with Skunk Baxter like this?
No.
Oh, you should. He was on this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
He gave his own version of the description of, the depth of music and the sonic, composition of it. And you guys could talk about frequency and really go crazy.
I love Skunk. I done some gigs with him, and he is a wonderful character.
He is. Who are some of the other folks that have, other musicians over your career that have, had an impact on you, had an influence on you?
Freddie King. When Freddie King was opening for Grand Funk, it was a blessing. Deacon Jones was his keyboard player, and those guys, every night, those guys were playing poker after the gig. And Freddie would pay them, then he'd win back when he was paying. And we sat in on some of the poker games, and it was so funny. This one time, man, it was like Freddie had lost two or three hands in a row, and this is like unheard of, and everybody's like going, all right, all right. Freddie reaches in his pocket and he slams a 38 special, a Saturday night special, down on the table. He says, okay, that's enough of that crap. We all about died laughing, dude. Oh my God, what a character. I miss
Oh,
I miss him.
oh,
He,
what a great story. Oh
yeah,
my
he was
God.
an inspiration in my life, a great musician. He played with a wound G string. That boy had some strength in his hands. I saw him snap the headstock off a Les Paul Jr. one night on stage, just bam, gone. He just put
Wow.
that pressure on it. Yeah.
I love it. Um, Mark, why do bands ultimately break up?
Well, I think it's the estimation that the ego gets in there, and I wanna be the one out there. I want to do, it can't be all you. It's gotta be, that goes on a lot. I think that goes on so much that it breaks bands up. And I've heard about this. I mean, I've talked to other players, and most of the time they tell me it's the ego gets in the way. A band member, don't feel like they're getting enough recognition, so you know, they throw a hissy fit.
Isn't that true of everything in life? Ego gets in the way of everything, really? Isn't that the bottom line problem?
Yeah, Buzz, man,
No.
that's it. The pride of man. The ego can be a good thing. It really, I mean, we need to have some ego, but it needs to be under your control. It needs to submit to you. You can't submit to ego because things will go crazy.
Mark, there's a lot of bands out there that are touring that aren't the bands. They
Yeah,
aren't, they aren't. Do you have a thought on that?
there are many bands that they don't even have the original members, and they're calling it the name of the band, what the band, the original trademark of that band. And it's the same thing I believe that's wrong with the entire world, and that is corporations. Because in a corporate structure, once you're in that corporate structure, you are manipulated by the majority rule. And if there's three people and two are against you, I don't care what your status was prior to that, it's going to be whatever they want. If there's four people, I mean, that's what it is. Corporations and whoever's controlling the trademark. I was talking to God, he was in Cleveland doing it was Gunnar Nelson, and he says, Farner, do you know that there's 126 versions of this band that goes out of it's old time rock and roll, and there's one guy that controls the trademark, and he licenses the use of the trademark to each one of these 126 bands, and people don't know. They're just going to hear the music. I said, bingo, that's it.
Yeah.
And whoever has the use of the trademark, it doesn't matter. It can be legal because it's a corporate thing, and that's a legal thing to do. But how honest is that? How honest is it? If honesty has no bearing on your life and you don't really give a rip, then you can go ahead and do stuff like that. But I think people need to know and be honest about things. And that is very unlikely in the current situation. I mean, you think about in 1996, man, the deregulation of the FCC put the ownership of all these radio stations and television stations in the hands of just a few people. It used to be owned by moms and dads, grandpas and grandmas. You could own 7 AM, 7 FM, 7 television station. It was a 777 rule, the FCC 777 rule. And when they abolished that rule, it was set in place to prevent a monopoly. But when they abolished it, guess what happened? And now we're suffering under that monopoly.
Very well stated, sir. Really well stated. So let's talk about, okay, you're going to be hitting the road with the band, right? To promote the new project.
Yes,
and you've got the single out, obviously, of I'm Your Captain, and then the full album coming out in November. There's also a bonus track I want to talk about there as well, that you have on there. Talk about the Friends Forever track and who's involved with it.
Yeah, Jim Peterick from the Ides of March and I got together at his studio, and we recorded the vocal, and we recorded. It was just like you do a scratch track. It was to be. I eventually ended up playing bass on it because I could hear some different things to make it move, a little differently. And I'm a Motown R&B kind of guy. I was raised on that, and it's in me, so I hear things that way, and I could hear it that way as I was singing and doing it down in the studio. I heard it that way, and when Mark Slaughter and I were recording my album Closer to My Home, I said, we got this song that Peterick and I wrote, and we could get those tracks, and I could play the bass on it because I'm hearing here. I told him, I said, I'm just so bent on this bass that's in my head. He said, well, let's get it. Let's see how it sounds. And so when he put it up and I played the bass on it, then it made sense to me. It gave me the feeling that I could sing to. I had already done the track with Jim in around Chicago, there where he lives, and but I altered it when we got to Mark Slaughter's studio. I sang some different parts and just made it, more me. Because at the time I was just like, okay, I'm reading these words off a piece of paper, and I said, what about this? Family reunited at the heart, and it was like Jimbo was going, yeah, dude, and there's some other contributions that I felt were important to say, but to say humbly and keep the song, thank you to people. This is like, thank you everybody for, making our lives. And thank you for being the ones who kept us going and inspired us and encouraged us to continue with the talents that God gave us.
What a great message. That's so wonderful. Well, I do want to close with this, Mark. It kind of feeds right into, I think, a really important take I want you to leave us with. You have amazing characteristics of resilience. What can you tell us about resilience, where you sort of, learned it and strengthened it, where it comes from, and what others can take away from that?
Well, I think, Buzz, I think that, when my dad died, I was 9 years old. And it was a life-changing experience. Prior to my father dying, I had Uncle Garland died, and that changed our family. I mean, because we all got together on Sunday, every Sunday, the whole family got together and did music. There was fiddles and banjos and guitars, and my dad blew saxophone, and all the women sang, and it was like listening to angels sing, brother. Family harmony is a beautiful thing. But when I lost my dad, I watched the whole family kind of break up. We stopped having the jam sessions. We went into this mourning, and my mother, oh, God rest her soul, she was hurting. She was hurting for a long time, and I walked out of the dining room one day. It was shortly after my dad had passed, and there were a lot of people over trying to comfort my mother. And I walked out of the dining room and I went into the living room of the 11-room farmhouse that we lived in that my great grandfather built. And my dad, before he passed, he had just purchased a television set. We didn't have one till we used to listen to a radio, this great big wooden radio, and we'd pop popcorn and all the cousins and everybody sit around and listen to Flash Gordon and listen to all of these things on the radio, the creaking door but we had the TV. It was black and white. And I walked in there and it was on. It had been on, and my mother kind of had it on as a background noise, just to, keep her mind from wandering too deep. I think that was part of the ploy. Anyways, I walk in and Billy Graham's on the television and he says, "Are you hurting?" And I looked over. I'm 9 years old. I'm looking at this guy and I'm thinking, can he see me? Do you need a touch from God? And I'm going, I look around, I'm the only one in the living room. He's talking to me. I said, yes, I need a touch from God. He said, come over and put your hand on the television set. And I put my hand on that television set. Buzz, I tell you, when I prayed with him and I prayed to have Jesus come into my heart, come into my life, and to comfort me and give me that comfort that I needed, I got it. 9 years old, I got it. I believed as a child in what I was doing. I believed. And that belief, the understanding of that belief, has given me a resilience that has stayed with me, and it has gathered momentum like a snowball rolling down a steep hill, gathering momentum, getting bigger, you know, uh, keeping that intact. There's so much that wants to eat away at it. There's so many other things that you could get your mind confused by. But I thank God for that faith that I have. Because faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things unseen. We have to, when we pray believing. So that belief and that prayer that I prayed with Billy Graham that gave me something that I have kept in my heart to this day. I'll be 76 on the 29th of this month, brother. And my faith is increasing the more I take dominion over this temple, and the more I tell the evil one, take a hike. I belong to love, man.
Oh, what a great time talking to you. You're an iconic figure in music history, and you're still at it, and you're still spreading the good word of music and the good word from your heart. Mark Farner, congrats on the new releases, and good luck on the tour. And thanks for being on Taking a Walk, brother.
It has been my pleasure, Buzz. It's great to hear your heart as well. I wish you the best, and God bless you. And if I don't see you in the future, I'll see you in the pasture.
You're the best. Thank you.